How the heretics? I'm here with Michaela, and we just thought we could start early while we I'm tired. Wait for the Mormons. So this is Michaela,
Hello,
and
everyone.
and tell us your story.
So I was born and raised as a witness, and let me silence my phone before that goes off the whole time. So I was born and raised a witness. I got baptized at 14 and pioneered several years. Got married in the cult at 23. Was married for 3 years, and then the last 5 years I started seeing discrepancies. The last 3 years were really I could tell there's something that wasn't what I was taught for it to be.
What did you see?
Well, mostly the fact that I was 26 and then still hadn't come yet. And just that there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. It was it's always been there, but it was extremely blatant in this congregation. It was very, the ministerial servants were out drinking and partying and getting DUIs and still ministerial servants.
Oh.
So that was kind of what started waking me up. And then my brother told me that he was leaving and the reasons why he felt like this was a cult. And I was like, okay. So we started watching your show, John Cedars, a bunch of other.
Mine?
We did watch yours, yes. There were 4 that really stood out. It was John Cedars, yours, the Jay the Comedian, and one other one that I can't think of right now, but the atheist one.
Yeah, that's fun. It's nice to be able to help people. I actually changed my recommendations. Okay, no one cares what I think, but a lot of people ask. And I always used to tell people that, just think about, be selfish, just leave you and mind your own, But I'm actually starting to change but, it's just my idea. But I think it's a good thing to wake people up. Like your brother woke you up. Yes. If he would have listened to my advice, I never met him, but, if I would have given him advice a year ago, it would be just leave and don't try to wake anyone up. Yeah. So, but on the other hand, I just realized that's the biggest mistake of my life, that I didn't wake up my wife when I woke up. Because sometimes I was awake for 14 years and her health were just deteriorating. And in the end, I just had to try to wake her up in panic, and that didn't work.
Yes, it was when I woke up, I tried to tell my now ex-husband about it, and it didn't go over well, which was funny because the whole time we were married, I was the one who was responsible for making sure we got to meetings, were prepared, all that stuff. So I thought he would be relieved that I didn't want to do this anymore, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I heard it before. Like the lady or the sister is the one dragging him to the meetings, and then when she wakes up, he freaks out.
Yep.
I heard it before.
It doesn't make any sense.
It could be a guy thing because we're told that we are the head of the household, Mm-hmm. So control your woman, and it's a failure in a way.
I could see that.
So what did your brother say? Do you remember? Because you did not start shunning him when he said he wants to leave. So I think people are interested in that. What's the silver bullet?
Well, for him, I had my siblings, my older 2 got disfellowshipped, but that was because they committed immorality. So my brainwashed brain was oh yeah, I can't do that. But because he wanted to leave, simply because he didn't believe it, and there were things and proof he had, 607 was a really big one for me, and just proof that the doctrines was completely made up. Yeah. And then the one about the yearbook that Rutherford wrote, where he was trying to get in good with Hitler, and it ended up causing a lot of problems for the witnesses. That really hit me because I had just come back from my second pioneer school. And we watched, yes.
Could you explain that to me? Second.
So the first pioneer school I went to when I was I was 19, for my first pioneer school, and then several years later I went back again because they had a new book and everything.
So is that a new thing that there's 2 pioneer schools?
Every 5 years you get sent back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I learned something new. Actually, I thought when I was a witness, I thought that would be a good thing, that like every 10 year you could go.
Yeah.
So from a corporate perspective, that would be a good choice. Because then people get a new goal to
it was. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's like motivation, you get a medal or you get, badge or something, I've been to Pioneer 5 times. That means you've been Pioneer for 25 years. Exactly. They work for peanuts, so you have to give them peanuts.
Yeah. It was actually funny because it helped me wake up too, because when I went there, I noticed how they were coaching, like you would give an answer from the heart that was technically correct, but it had to be like they wanted you to give word for word what was in the book. And that for me was really disturbing, because it was like they were coaching us on what answer we were supposed to give. And I had a real problem with that. Because if it's supposed to be from the heart, then it should be from the heart.
Yeah. It's actually a brainwashing technique, They read a paragraph, and then you're supposed, that they tell you to answer only within the paragraph, but with your own words, so the paragraph's thoughts become your thoughts. And you're supposed, even if you don't answer, you're supposed to create the thoughts in your head for every paragraph. It's so creepy.
It is. Once you get out and you look at it.
When you leave.
Yes. Because that's what we were taught.
Yeah, and it's so boring. They read a paragraph and then they ask the question. It's really, you really don't need to read a paragraph if you're going to answer the questions,
Exactly.
You could only have the... So I'm trying with this concept now, and one of the things I try to ask everyone, is there anything you haven't been out so long. You left in November?
Yeah, officially in November.
But is there any questions on Watchtower study? We just repeated what it was in the paragraph, but now you know the real answer. Is there anything you remember that you would like to say instead?
That's a really good question. I mean,
something funny.
Well, it's not so funny. It's more like with the shunning, because this is a little bit depressing. Like, my friend, like, now that I'm out, I'm able to reconnect with a lot of people who I wasn't able to be friends with for so long. So one of them was a really close friend of mine. He'd been out for 8 years, and his dad just died Thursday, and they didn't tell him. Like, he found out because my parents told me, even though they're shunning me, they text me and thought that was okay. Like, as long as they don't talk to me, they just can send the text and that's fine. And he didn't know. And it's like, when you think of how Jesus's love and all that, it's really kind of hypocritical of what they do.
Yeah. So. It's weird.
Yeah.
It can make good people toxic, the religion.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, and we're going to have Mormons on here, and we go through a lot of shit when we leave, but then when we leave, we get shunning and kind of can move on in a way. I see the Mormons there, but before we leave, we have this enormous passive aggressiveness, Like, I was pimo for 14 years, which was too long for anyone, but...
That sounds really hard.
Yeah, but like, I did it for my wife, but I failed. I should have woken her up earlier before she got sick. But they have this passive aggressiveness, like they would. Everyone would go out grilling in the beach, and they would actually do stuff that I liked. Like, the whole congregation would go out fishing, and they say, like, everyone that after meeting we go out fishing, and everyone that go to the meeting is welcome. So they do like passive aggressive stuff like that, and that's I see kind of that's the way it is to be an ex-Mormon, that you live with that bullshit rest of your life. We, in a way, we get rid of it because they start shunning us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually better in a way.
I feel like that because then you're not constantly having the teachings thrown at you all the time because they're shunning you.
Yeah, because you get rid of toxic people.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Do you know what woke up your brother?
There was a lot of things. He started, so when he was in high school, he did dual enrollment. So he was able to be like, and because we were all homeschooled, it was his first time being around people who weren't witnesses and without my parents there to control the environment. So he started like opening up to friends and finding out like basically what we're taught is a bunch of like malarkey. And it was really hard for him because he didn't want to lose everybody. And he was baptized at 9. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see we have in the backstage here, we have 2 confused Mormons. That's fun. Wave. So I'm going to push the magic button here and they will be on.
Sounds good.
So see if we can
get...
Can we see all of them? Yeah, that's better.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, well. So welcome.
Thank you.
How's America and Space Force and everything?
Oh, Space Force is doing great.
Yeah.
We're going to dominate the moon.
Yeah.
The moon is ours.
Can you see me under here? Or is it like...
Yeah, somewhere under there.
I can move my camera maybe so you can see my pretty
your
face.
Camera up high. There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So I have my ex-cult. I really enjoy being ex-cult. I wear ex-cult clothing all the time. So this is Morgan.
Hi, Morgan. Nice to meet
you. Hey, thanks.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Because I really like your story because I like Jared. He's a good guy. I think you should keep him.
You like my story because you like Jared? Is that what you said? That's a good reason to like my story.
Yeah, so, because he woke up first. And his reaction was exactly the same as mine. Like, okay, so you say the church is true. And we have to say the truth is the truth. You know, we have to repeat all the time. The truth is the truth. It's
even more ominous.
Sounds even more cultish.
Yeah, it's slightly more culty because we have to say actually the truth. Every time we have doubt and you talk to someone, they ask, "Don't you think the truth is the truth?" And you have to say, "Well, obviously the truth is the truth."
Right. It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it's like you would have to go and walk around saying the church is the church.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That is.
It's really difficult to say the church is not the church then.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So a little bit about us. So we grew up Mormon, both of us. We're in Idaho right now. We got married in the temple, which is like the Mormon thing to do and everything. We believed it pretty wholeheartedly. Jared had served a mission and everything. And then like a year into our marriage, Jared had done some research about church history and realized he didn't believe anymore. And then I started to question after that, and maybe we'll get into that story more. But then after that, I started a YouTube channel where I just was talking about my feelings because I was like, I can't be the only one that feels this way. And so now we have a YouTube channel where we talk about kind of dealing with the emotional backlash of leaving a high demand religion. We also do a lot of comedy with it with our sister Jensen, who is, representative of a very extreme,
It's a caricature of a very high demand Mormon.
Yeah. So to help, bring some humor into the transition for people. And and also I actually in just like 2 weeks am teaching a webinar called 5 Steps to Ditch the Ex-Mormon Guilt, which I think will also be very applicable to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses or anyone in a high demand religion. Me and a friend of mine are teaching that because we're so passionate about helping people to really live fully and happy after leaving, because it's so hard when you've been so ingrained with all of this guilt and shame. So if anyone's interested, you can go check out my YouTube channel to find the link to register, or you can go to tinyurl.com/shift1000 and you can register there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
I want to hear the story about Jared, because I know Jared. I watch your channel, so Jared realized the church is not true, and then directly you realized, oh shit, I'm married to Morgan. I had to take right. And that's basically what we call to be pimo. You're physically in, mentally out. Pimo.
Yeah, kind of like
you don't believe in the church or the truth or whatever, but you have to just fake it.
Yeah. I don't really know how people can live like that long term. Because
how long were you pimo?
Probably
at least a couple of years.
Yeah, it was a couple of years, because we got married in 2013, and pretty damn soon after we got married was when I was like, oh, I just don't believe anymore. And for me, it was like kind of a light switch. I learned like one specific thing, which is the founder of the church, Joseph Smith, claimed that God forced him to marry a 14-year-old, basically, is the gist of the story. And I was like,
an angel with a flaming sword.
Yep.
That kills you to get sex with a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, it must not be true. And so it was like a light switch to me. And then Morgan, she didn't really start to leave until
I didn't even know what was going on with you for so long.
Well, yeah, I thought if I brought it up, I'd lose my wife,
So he's like, I'll just have to fake it forever. This is gonna suck.
Yeah, I did say that to myself. I said, well, guess I'm just gonna have to fake it forever. And so I did for years. I kept going to church and just hating it, like sitting there listening to people say things that I'm like, I know this is not right.
Right.
And I can't really, I don't want to cause a ripple. I don't want to argue back. Because especially it would come back to Morgan and it would make her life in the church more difficult.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, it was probably maybe 2015. I started telling you kind of the style. Like I started hinting at it. I stopped paying tithing, and, which is good because for Mormons, tithing, I don't know what it is for you guys, but for Mormons, it's 10% of your income, just all the time.
Jehovah's Witnesses don't have to pay tithing.
Sell the literature.
We're selling literature, and that's way worse because, it is.
And washing windows.
Because the Watchtower Jehovah, he's like a pimp. He wants you to work for him. While the Mormon God is more like a hooker. You pay him and he loves you.
Oh my god!
That's much easier.
This is why I really like Jonas. He has a way of describing things. Oh, tell Jared the way you described the start of the Mormon Church versus the start of Jehovah's Witness, about the rich and the poor man.
Yeah, but that's okay. So I'm not okay. So Jehovah's Witnesses were started by a guy that was called Charles Taze Russell, and he was a rich man, a gullible rich man. Kind of conspiracy theorist we would call today. Biblical conspiracy theorist. And the end of the world, and there's a dinosaur with 10 heads, and blah 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 blah. And he thought the world would end, so he sold everything. And it didn't end, and he started a magazine, and it turned into a cult, But he was a rich man, and rich people grow up with money. They believe money will always be there. So it was ingrained in the cult, and that's one of the good things in the Witness cult, that it's not about money. So the literature was ridiculously cheap, but they still made money because they forced kids to go out sell it every day of the week, Mm-hmm. But it wasn't really a money cult like that. But the Mormons is the opposite. It was a really poor guy who started a cult to get rich.
Yep.
And in the long run, the Mormons has been much more effective because, well, no one, the Mormons. You have a Deseret magazine or something. Deseret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Deseret, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the
nice.
leader of the Jehovah Witness religion, he was always, they used to, not anymore, but they would always refer to the leader of the religion as the president of the Watchtower. So imagine if your religious leader would be a CEO of Deseret.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be
I
the
love the
leader of the
way-
Mormon Church, the CEO of Deseret Media
I love the
Company.
way you described the Jehovah's Witness organization to me. I think you said it was a multi-level marketing. What did you call it?
It's a multi-level marketing printing company.
Yes,
That's
so
exactly what
funny.
it is.
It's so good. I love that. It's like,
So
if you
everything
tell
is.
literature to 3 friends, you're gonna secure your way to heaven. Maybe.
Possibly. You might do many things that end up making it so you don't make it.
Yeah, but
Right.
I think it's better to be a Mormon because you're kind of allowed to have a real life as long as
yeah.
you pay 10%.
No,
Because
Jehovah's Witness,
so when you're a
really,
Jehovah Witness kid, you're not allowed to play or anything because you're supposed to go out, and I refer to it as selling literature. The witnesses, they say we don't sell literature, we place it
yeah.
in exchange for money, but they don't sell it. But as a kid, you're not supposed to do anything but selling literature. As a grown-up, you're not supposed to have an education because Armageddon will come soon. And then you should not have a girlfriend because Armageddon will come soon. And then if you get a girlfriend, you should not have children. And if you do have children, you should not have a career. Nothing is about you. Everything is about pushing Watchtower. It's a multi-level marketing company, and they behave like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a close friend, girl I kind of dated in high school. Like, we were into each other, but she wasn't allowed to date me because she was Jehovah's Witness. And we just kept trying to convert each other. So she would tell me, she would try to tell me, this is why you're not allowed to have a blood transfusion. This is why you're not allowed to celebrate holidays or whatever. And she would kind of start to try to shit on Mormonism. She'd be like, did you know this and this and this happened? And I'd be like, well, let's say you convinced me that Mormonism is nonsense. I don't know what makes you think I'm going to all of a sudden say, well, the Jehovah's Witnesses must be right.
Yeah. Someone has to be.
But I don't know.
Someone has to be. I hope it's not the Jehovah's Witnesses, honestly.
I've never
I want
quite...
the Mormons to be right. I can just go to boring heaven.
I've never quite understood what they do about that early church issues in Jehovah's Witness, because I remember looking up some of the stuff on it, and I was like, look, your church has predicted the end of the world incorrectly, like, I don't know, 5 times or whatever. And she's like, that never happened. And that was it. She shut down. She wouldn't even talk about it. So what do they do about it? Like, what do they say?
They do word games. They do word games. You know, like the word have a different meaning for them. The Mormons do exactly the same.
So it's like it's Jehovah spiritually came back or something like that.
No, like if you ask a Mormon, well, at least back in the days, you have polygamy. No, we have plural marriage.
Yeah, that is what they do.
Yeah, so the witnesses saying we never predicted the end of the world. No, because they have different definition of predicted.
And they blame it on their people that go there, and they're like, well, they had false expectations. It's their fault. Not
they interpreted it wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, and you say the gospel is perfect, but people are not perfect. The Mormons say that. The gospel is perfect, but the people are not perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
the gospel's perfect, but the people aren't. Which
you can blame every issue on the members themselves.
You can blame everything on the members, and then the church is never at fault. Because even past racism in the church, they'll sit there and say, oh, well, the members weren't perfect, but the gospel is. But the ironic thing is that the gospel at the time was very racist. So it's like, well, the gospel was racist too, but that's because of the imperfect members. So
they always say, well, Brigham Young, he wasn't a perfect guy. And you're like, well, yeah, but he was he said he was talking to God. Like, he said Jesus would talk to him. So
Right.
I don't know why God didn't let him know, hey,
Don't do
they're
that.
people too.
Which, for those who don't know what we're referencing, there was a lot of racism in the early church as far as, like, we have our temple where you go and you, like, get married. You have special endowments there or whatever, like, just special, like, promises with God. And Black people weren't allowed to do that at all. And I think Joseph Smith at one point even sealed a Black person to him as, like, an eternal servant or something. Like, maybe I'm getting that wrong. It was either Joseph Smith or Brigham Young. So there was just a lot of racism. And of course, there was a lot of racism in the world at the time. But it's hard to sit here and say, well, shouldn't a God's true church be like a little ahead of the ball game on that?
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit.
It's fun when Jehovah's Witnesses start researching our history, they find racism and they are outraged. But the Jehovah's Witness racism is nothing compared to the Mormon racism.
Yeah, we got you topped. What?
Yeah. Okay, so Jehovah's Witnesses are, and this is a good thing, they're a very not racist religion. And I will give them credit for that. They are not perfect, obviously, and you blah, 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 but I will give them credit to be not racist. So when they research, they are outraged to hear that there had been meetings with segregation. But, the fact that they had segregation and defended it, compared to, I think Brigham Young said that about Noah, that there were, the wife of Ham was Black, because as well as God needed his servant on earth, Satan wanted his.
Oh my gosh.
I believe that. I don't think I've seen it, but I've seen a lot of things that he said that are pretty terrible.
Yeah, and some of them doesn't make sense either. He said that even if you just have a drip of Black blood in you, you cannot have a priesthood, be a priesthood holder. Mm-hmm. But then Mormons often say that they are from the tribe of Ephraim.
Yeah, it's the tribe thing is weird, man.
Yeah, but Ephraim was from the tribe. The son of Pharaoh's daughter, and Pharaoh's daughter, according to Joseph Smith, was Black.
Uh-oh.
So that means that Joseph Smith was Black. So according to Brigham Young, Joseph Smith could not be a prophet or hold the priesthood.
Well, Joseph Smith's basically God, so I think you're forgetting that.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, how long could he be undercover before you started realizing, and when did you start realize? Was he cranky or stopped talking to you or secretive or angry?
Like Jared, right?
Yeah, how did you realize
that he was really depressed? And I was like, what is wrong with you? I thought something was seriously wrong. I was like, he needs meds or something. Like, because I didn't know what was going on. And I think one night I finally beat it out of you. I was like, no, seriously, tell me what is going on. Because, like, you have been so, like, just in a dark place for so long with no explanation.
Yeah, it was, well, and I was real kind of shy about it, I guess, because she was like, no, you got to tell me what's wrong. You got to tell me. And I was like, well, I'm cheating on you. And
no, that's not what he said. That's what I was afraid of, though.
Just kidding. Way worse, actually. I found out, I just kind of told her, well, I read this stuff about church history, and it was just, kind of troubling. And
I was like relieved because I thought he was cheating on me or like something. I didn't know what was going on. So I was like, oh, it's fine. He'll pray about it. He'll figure it out. He'll find out the church is true and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's not what happened. Spoiler alert.
No.
I also kind of downplayed it a little bit. Like I made it seem like it was just stuff that was kind of bothersome. Mm-hmm. And when I should have been like, it's all a lie.
That might have been a little too much at the time.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't have helped, actually.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard. Like, I mean, I know I did the same thing with my family when I was telling them about my doubts. Like, you want to sugarcoat it because you don't want them to know how evil you really are. But it's so different, obviously, from Jehovah's Witness perspective, because it's like, I mean, you're dead. You don't believe in Jehovah, you're dead. Jesus is going to kill you in Armageddon, and we're going to kill you right now, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
I invited some Mormons to pizza when I was in Trondheim cleaning windows, living the dream. And so I asked them questions, and I explained to them, I am an apostate. Oh, they always crap your pen when I start with that. I'm an apostate, but I say I'm a Jehovah Witness apostate. So let's agree that the Jehovah Witnesses are wrong. So I'd like to investigate Mormonism, and I start from the other end. I start from apostasy, work my way back to, the milk.
Belief, yeah.
So, and they understand that. So I start just asking things, and I ask them about, the general authorities, how that works. And I said, can a black person be general authority? And I don't remember what the answer, but then one of the Mormons, the missionaries, said, he said it without me asking. He just said, Brigham Young was a racist.
Well, he's not wrong.
And then he looked like super scared on his companion, like, I hope you're not offended.
It just fell out of my face.
But that's a good example, because if they would have been Jehovah Witnesses, Mormon A would have go to the elders and report Mormon B.
Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of like
and he would be sent home from the mission in disgrace, and his family would not meet him on the airport, and his clothing would be in some bags outside the door, and he would have nowhere to live.
Yeah.
So that's kind of hard.
For missionaries, it's a little bit closer to that whole Jehovah's Witness perspective. Like, obviously, your parents aren't going to disown you.
The cultiest part of Mormonism is a mission.
Yeah, your parents aren't. I mean, they're not instructed to disown you if you come home early from your mission.
Well, they're not instructed either, but it's like culturally, what I mean? But still, yeah.
But you are definitely instructed to snitch on your companion if he's doing something incorrect. And that puts you in a really weird position. I had companions that
Oh no.
How nasty can I be on this?
Yeah. Go for it. Don't mention any names.
No, I won't mention names. It gets a little graphic, I guess. I had a mission president
It's not that bad.
who sat us down, and like the entire mission, he's talking to everyone. He goes, elders and sisters, you're masturbating too much. And we're like, and his policy was, obviously, if your companion masturbates, you have to come and tell him. And I had two companions in a row that they were in bunk beds. They were in the bed above me, and I'd wake up to them doing their thing in the middle of the night. And I was like sitting there thinking, man, I can't let him know I'm awake, because then I'm supposed to go tell the president, and I don't want to be in the middle of that crap. But the policy was he had us put a picture of Jesus in every shower, and he would release a mission-wide voicemail at the end of every day telling us how many days without incident we've gone. So
zero days.
I think we made it 14 days, which just means that most of us lied.
14 days?
Yeah, 14 days.
It was 2 months.
Well, you personally, but this is a mission full of 19-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Right? So he would call us up and leave a voicemail to everyone in the mission, say, we've made it 3 days, so congratulations or whatever. But then when somebody failed, he's like, elders and sisters, I regret to inform you that the missionary has selfishly put his own carnal desires above the needs of the mission and submitted to masturbation. And then that when you confessed to him and said, I masturbated, he would then call you every day at the end of the day and say, have you slipped up? And you'd have to tell them if you had or hadn't. If you did, the next step was you had to call your parents and you had to say, Mom, Dad, I have a problem with masturbation and I need your help.
Oh,
And
like, how
call
does
your
the
parents-
shaming get worse than that?
Yeah.
Your parents you haven't talked to in maybe a year, because you're not allowed to talk to your family. It's changed now, but you weren't allowed to talk. You could talk to them twice a year on Christmas and Mother's Day, other than emailing once a week. And you'd have to call them. Haven't talked to them in years.
Yeah, that means you're in trouble if you call your parents.
Oh, it's bad. Anyway, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Oh, so bad. So bad.
The thing when you're busy hating yourself, then you're easy to control.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they beat you into vulnerability.
You know, the thing I see most often with the more religion, the high demand religions I research, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this, is it's like you give them this healthy dose of importance and this healthy dose of fear, right? The importance, you're God's chosen people, you have this special mission, like you gotta be good for Jehovah, you gotta be a good example for your family, make them feel important, like they have this purpose. You gotta sell this literature, whatever. But then you backhand it with, but Satan can get you so easily if you're not careful. Your family's gonna reject you if you don't follow this. And like you keep feeding them that fear and that importance, and it keeps them latched on to the belief. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's reminded me of the president. Let's not talk politics, but they say, America is the greatest and afraid of the deep state and the corruption and crooked.
Right.
You always have the heaven and the invisible enemy,
Yes.
And
Exactly.
there's an invisible enemy that wants to kill you, and I'm the only one that can see the invisible enemy. So
yeah.
While I fight the invisible enemy.
You are poison and we are the antidote.
Yeah. Nah, it's weird. I've been working on a video now, and I have a clip from Watchtower propaganda. They try to explain on masturbation, and that's a high-ranking official
Is it
helper
from
to the governing
Palestine?
body. That would be like basically one of the apostles, or kind of almost honor for you. And he's giving a video talking about masturbation, and he says, if a brother squeeze a pillow between his thighs, he achieves an erection, but do not orgasm. Has he masturbated? Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's the level of you've gone too far, and you has to confess to the elders. If you squeeze the pillow.
Well, it's kind of they make virtue competitive, and that's something that I saw on my mission a lot, was like being righteous is now a competition. You have to be the most righteous
Who
person.
can be more righteous?
So there's only so many rules you can obey. Like if your only rules are don't have sex before marriage and don't kill people, if those are the only two rules, and two people both follow those rules, then you can't tell which one is more righteous. So they have to like twist the rules,
They
right?
gotta up the ante.
They have to say, not only am I not having sex before marriage, but I'm also not even thinking about women. And then the other one, not only am I not thinking about women, but I actually hate women. And there's sort of a competition to create your own rules for yourself so that you can be more obedient than the next person, or at least obedient enough to prove to yourself that you're not scum.
Like on your mission, there was that one guy who, so it's like, it's frowned upon almost on your mission to like miss your family, even though you're away for 2 years, like, but it goes to the extreme of like, there was a guy's like, oh, I don't even miss my family. I don't even miss him. I don't even miss them at all. Like, I'm doing so good. And it's like, are you serious? Like, that's where you want a virtue signal, buddy? Is that you don't care about your family? It's weird. The extremes people will take it to.
Yeah. But the Mormons do this, you have to be called elder, and kind of giving you a new name. That's a typical cult thing, to give you a new identity.
It strips you of your individuality as much as it can. And
a mission really does that, because they call you elder last name, and And there's even weird stigma. A lot of the missionaries won't even share what their real first name is if the members ask, like just to know, like, oh, what's your first name? Like just, so we know. And oh, it's Elder. Like, what?
Yeah, my companions would get annoyed with me because I thought that was stupid. Because people would ask, be like, what's your real name? And he'd be like, Elder Smith. Like, yeah, but what's your first name? Like, Elder. And then they'd look at me and be like, what's your first name? I was like, Jared. And then my companion would look at me and be like, like he's my wife or something, and we're supposed to be on the same team and we're arguing in front of the kids or something.
Yeah. I remember the first time I met Mormons in field service. We call it field service when we go out knocking doors.
Right.
Because Jesus said, the fields are ready for harvest, So,
Yes.
So, and I remember I met some Mormons, and they smiled, like someone to convert smile. And I remember I offered them literature and they said no, they were not allowed to take. And I thought, oh, stupid cult members. And they offered me the Book of Mormon, and I said, I'm not allowed to accept it. It's kind of exactly the same. I thought they were cult members and they thought I was a cult member. And then every day when I go out in field service, kind of would just take a walk in the city first and then wave to the Mormons. And we would wave, let's see here, wave like, hello. Yeah, like a direction. And they would wave in a different direction. So they were kind of pointing out, we'll go there, so you can go there.
Claim your territory.
Yeah, so it wouldn't go the same doors, So it's kind of a fun working territory. And, Mormons, they had all these fancy bicycles and cars and name tags and stuff. Witnesses, when we call it pioneering, when you're a missionary. And it's only 3 hours a day, but you have to support yourself, and all the meeting activity and stuff like that come in addition.
Right.
So it's kind of a full-time job. So often work as a window cleaner or dumpster diver or something like that. So I used to hitchhike out in field service, and the Mormon missionaries actually picked me up. So they were spending the Lord's petrol to drive around Jehovah's Witness.
Oh,
that was very nice of them.
Funny.
So now I'm buying them pizza when I meet them time.
Oh my gosh.
That's nice.
Yeah,
No. What do Mormons think about Jehovah's Witnesses?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up because Jonas made me aware that Jehovah's Witnesses generally think Mormons are lazy because they'll leave home to go preach around people they don't know, and only for 2 years instead of for your whole life. So Jonas put me in my place.
See,
thank you.
Yeah.
So Mormonism does this really weird thing where it actually gives you a bunch of very good skeptical arguments against every other religion but yours, and then expect you not to turn that around and apply it to your own religion. So, like, my thoughts on Jehovah's Witnesses growing up, whenever I heard anything about them, were pretty much like any atheists thought about Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, yeah, they're just a cult. They're controlling and they're terrible. And I'd be like, well, yours does a lot of the same things. And I'd be like, nope. Actually, no.
Well, and the way I always saw it too is because they would teach you like, okay, well, all these churches out there, they have a little bit of the truth, but we're the ones that have the full truth. And so, they have these little bits and pieces, and you can appreciate like the good that they have. It's just that we have all of it, so we're better. And so the way I would look at it when I had friends in different religions is I'd be like, oh, it's cool. Like, because I had respect for anyone who's religious because I was religious and I thought it was cool to find that. But I remember starting to break that down as a teenager and being like, wait a second, like, aren't we all just like Team Jesus or something? Like,
Yeah.
Why do we have to have all these labels? Which was it was very a bizarre thought to have for a Mormon because that, was kind of different from what I believed. But I was like, well, we can all be Team Jesus and we can still have the full truth and they can have part of the truth, but we're all Team Jesus, right? Like, and so anyway, just kind of, it was funny. It confused me, but I feel like growing up in St. Louis, because it was such a diverse community, it helped me to kind of see that there was a lot of different ways people could worship and that maybe it wasn't that big of a deal.
See, I thought I had my one Jehovah's Witness kind of girlfriend, you know, and she kind of made me think that they were a lot more culty. And I still think that. I think that the Watchtower organization is just infinitely more corrupt than the Mormon organization.
It's hard to use the word cult with Mormons. I hear so much about Jehovah's Witnesses.
And part of the reason I thought that was because when we would be trying to convert each other, she was like, well, we have this special conference coming up. And it was a long conference. It was like 9 hours. Some convention thing. And she's like,
no. 9 times 3, probably.
Yeah, because 3-day convention.
It's a 3-day convention. So 9:21, not 9.
Oh boy.
And you had to sit perfectly still and not talk during the whole thing.
See,
but you get to flirt afterwards.
Yes, you can have lunch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's where you go husband hunting or wife hunting. It's much easier wife hunting because there's so much more sisters than brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
You go to the convention. So when Jehovah Witness, I don't know, is it the same with Mormons? No, you're allowed to date and stuff like that. So, but Jehovah Witnesses are not allowed to date, but you can meet someone at the convention, preferably in cleaning or something like that. You know, volunteer
Do
service.
you want to make sure their thought before?
Mormonism is basically like the dating website of religions. Getting married in Mormon is like shooting fish in a barrel. They push you to get married.
They set up singles wards, singles activities, like put all the young single Mormon people together so they'll get married and make more Mormon babies. Mormons know how to do it right. Like religion, business, money, like they've got to figure it out. Like they've got a good structure going.
I mean, no, but she invited me to go to that convention and I was totally down to go. And because I always found learning about other religions to be fascinating. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, but she doesn't do any of the things I asked her to do. So I told her we had our general conference coming up. And I was like, well, if I do that for you, will you listen to one general conference talk with me? And she's like, no, I can't do that. I was like, well, I'm giving you 9 hours in exchange for 10 minutes. And she's like, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. What do you mean? Can you, what if I give you a chapter from the Book of Mormon to read? She's like, nope. I was like, okay, one verse. What if I give you one verse and I promise you it's not more than like 3 sentences long? And then I'll go to your 9-hour convention. She's like, I just don't think I feel good about that. I was like, are you kidding me? What if you convert me from this? You know, like, what if, because you read that one verse, I go to your convention and then I decide to praise Jehovah. And she's like, it's just not something I can do. And I understand, like, I'm kind of making fun of her right there, but I do understand that's her conditioning. She was a 16-year-old girl. Obviously, she's been...
And she's sticking to her guns.
Yeah.
But yet again, I said, witnesses, we think that Mormons are lazy. I remember my mother when she explained to me what Mormons are. And one of the things she said, you know, they don't drink coffee, but they would drink coffee to save their life. And that's a bad thing in Jehovah's Witness brain.
I kind of like that.
Is it just saying that they're not
committed? Like
okay, I see.
Like if somebody held a gun to your head, you would forsake your standards and drink coffee.
Oh, so like if she invited you to that conference and you had to take a sip of coffee, you would have just taken a sip of coffee.
Well, I probably wouldn't have, but I was
just kidding.
I was a weirdo.
No, but
I think in general, a lot of Mormons are pretty committed and they take the rules very seriously. I mean, so seriously that it's usually very damaging to their mental health. But that's really funny.
I think Jehovah's Witnesses are definitely more so.
Oh so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess
die because of blood transfusions.
Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah,
I remember getting heated with her when she talked about that.
You know, if you would go to Jehovah's Witness church, you know, Kingdom Hall, and say, you know, I because Jesus healed people on a Sabbath, I feel confident to take a blood transfusion to save my child's life. You will be kicked out, and no one will feel any sympathy with, you know. If you would do the same with a cup of coffee, you know, the doctor said that his cold could be cured with coffee. You give coffee to the kid, and no one will think it's weird.
Yeah, there are.
That's what my mother meant, and in the Jehovah's Witness mentality, it means that Mormon can't be the true religion because they're not as jihad like we are.
They're definitely not as firm. Like the rules do have exceptions. I mean, because they're
Depends.
well,
like chastity and stuff they're very strict with.
yeah, they are. I mean, they're strict with certain things, but like, I mean, there's alcohol in certain medicines, and
Yeah, and people don't care about that.
Yeah, and
well,
we could-
some people. I saw someone post this thing about there was a certain kind of candy that apparently had green tea in it, and she was like, "Sorry, all my Mormon friends, but I have to ruin this for you. You can't eat this brand of candy because there's green tea in it." It was just like, oh boy.
How? Okay, so the Mormons have a book called Word of Wisdom that says you cannot drink hot beverages,
Mhm.
and then
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Almighty God Almighty
What?
God realized that when you say you can't drink hot beverages, some crazy person will think I have to stop eating soup.
I know.
Almighty God came with an explanation, don't drink hot beverages like tea or coffee. And Mormons decided that don't drink hot beverage means don't drink caffeine.
Yeah. See, it's
And
That's
it's
so
confusing too,
arbitrary.
because you can't drink like cold drinks.
yeah, you can't drink coffee if it's cold. So
right.
it's really not the hot beverage. That's what the book says, right? It's a chapter in the Doctrine and Covenants.
Which was where Joseph wrote down his revelations from God.
Yeah, so he and it's really odd how it started. It was actually more of a spiteful joke almost.
If you look at the history behind it.
Yeah, because it was the elders of the church would meet in Joseph Smith's house, and back then they would chew tobacco and just spit it on the ground.
like
and-
nasty weirdos.
And Joseph's wife, his first wife, Emma, she was obviously very annoyed to have to scrub tobacco off the floor. And she kind of spitefully said, like, well, sure wish God would come up with a revelation banning tobacco. And one of the elders responded, because that was more of a man thing at the time. And one of the elders responded, well, only if he also comes up with a revelation banning coffee and tea. And so it was kind of this weird back and forth. But like the next week or something, Joseph's like, yeah, we don't do that stuff anymore. And it was only a recommendation at the time. That's all it was a word of wisdom, like literally a piece of advice. You didn't have to do it.
It wasn't a commandment until a couple prophets later. And then it was like, you can't go to the temple if you drink a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm. So, and it is really weird because it does say hot beverages, but you can drink hot chocolate.
And soup.
And so it's really funny because my mission was in Brazil, but while I was waiting on my travel visa, they had me go to Nebraska in the United States. And we had a pamphlet. And the Word of Wisdom was one of the lessons we were required to teach before we could let them be baptized. And it had 5 things in the Word of Wisdom pamphlet that you were supposed to avoid. And it was alcohol, tobacco, coffee, tea, and illegal drugs. And then I went to Brazil, and it had the same 5 things, except it said it said black tea instead of just tea.
Mm.
And so it was completely different there because the members of the church there, they would drink every kind of tea except black tea. And it kind of wore down my testimony of the church for a little bit, because I was like, well, they're like bending the rule, because in Brazil they're way more into tea than we are here
Culturally,
in
it's
the
a
States.
big deal.
So it's going to be a lot more difficult to convert a Brazilian if they're not allowed to drink any type of tea. But if you tell them just black tea, then it's easier. So I felt like that was kind of the church caving just a little bit to a culture. And I was like, well, but if it's bad for me, it should be bad for everyone, right?
Well, and it's like, if it's God's one true church, it shouldn't bend to cultural norms ever.
So the
Even
Word of
if
Wisdom,
Yeah.
the Word of Wisdom is just weird. I don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah. Makala, do we have anything like that they change from country to country? Like the rules?
Well, not so much from country to country, but from like years to years, it gets changed. Like what's okay 1 year ends up changing like several years later on.
Yeah. I know,
Well, you
like
have the leadership telling someone one
Jehovah's
thing.
Witnesses are not allowed to dance in Sweden, but in Norway we dance all the time.
Really?
Yes,
Oh
and the
my
US all the time.
gosh.
That's crazy.
Jonas, you
So
seem
then,
like a dancer, so.
Yeah, I like dancing. So it's the reason why I live in Norway. Now, Norway is kind of okay. So Jehovah's Witnesses are extremely well organized. You know, they
Mhm.
call it God's organization, not God's church or stuff like that. You know, God's organizations are very well organized. And Swedes, Germans, Finnish people, you know, are very well organized. Norwegians are not. Absolutely not. That's one of the reasons why I like living here, because kind of it was more laid back religion here than in Sweden, where everything was super. I just to prove a point, I remember once, you know, in the Kingdom Hall, there are contribution boxes, and so there's a label, you know, the money go to the wide work, you know, something. So I just made my own label that said pizza for the pioneers. And glue.
You got away with that?
Yeah, I just wanted to prove a point that in Norway I got away with that, so I glue it over, and someone laughed and said, "Oh, that's funny. Was it you?" Ha 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 ha. In other countries, I would basically be disfellowshipped for doing so.
Man.
Wow.
But now the twist that this is true. Like 1 month later, I'm going to go and give some contribution. It was still there. So
my
not only
God.
didn't they discipline me, but they didn't even remove the paper.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
So that's the reason why I lived in Norway. It's kind of more laid back that way, that they don't care so much about all the stupid things. And okay, so in Jehovah's Witness, we don't have one bishop like you have in the Word. So we have a body of elders, and they get a letter from Watchtower, you know, and it's like one letter to read for the congregation, and then it says, then it's maybe kind of, well, a few pages that only for elders.
Oh.
And that's really important, you know. And the normal witnesses, you can be a witness if you're a sister your whole life without knowing that there's a big part of the letter you're not allowed to read. But I remember that congregation, they would have very bad discipline. So let's say they were meeting when we have different parts of the programs, and you know, someone should prepare this, someone should prepare that, but they had no discipline. So they would go up and say stuff like, okay, so the next item, well, we didn't prepare that, but you know, we got this letter from Watchtower, and it's just one page, but since we have so much time, we can read all of it for the congregation.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's crazy.
They're kind of naughty.
Oh my gosh. So how does someone become an elder?
I have never been an elder. I've been a witness my whole life, and I was a really good one. But you're not allowed to question anything, or be a free spirit, basically.
Oh yeah.
Are they chosen by other elders to become an elder?
Well, they're chosen by a Holy Spirit technically, but
Right. My bad.
in real life they are chosen by a circuit overseer.
Got it.
So that
I think they're nominated by the elders, and then the CO approves it.
Yeah, something like that. They go through all the brothers. So the circuit overseer, this circuit is like 20, 25 congregations, and he travels around and visits them. And then they go through, basically it's a business meeting, you know, they go through the numbers. So you have to report every month how many hours you spend preaching. So they will go through, okay, so Morgan has reported 12 hours, 20 books, 10 magazines, 1 Bible study. We have to talk to Jared. Keep his house in order. She needs to do more next month. You know, it's a business meeting. So they have this sales. And then, well, if you were a ministerial servant or elder, you would be angry with Morgan for not doing enough because it makes you look bad.
Yeah.
And that's the circuit overseer. It's a business, basically, but stupid business because they're not making any money anymore. But the circuit overseer, he what's the English word? Makes the elder.
Appoints them.
Appoints them, yeah. Sorry, he appoints them. It used to be that Bethel did it, you know, the headquarter. But then they found out with all the, you know, the child abuse stuff, you know, They found out it's better to put a watertight seal between, So now it's the circuit overseer that appoints them.
And then he gets
And
blamed
they
with
can't say
everything.
the watchtower did it, and that's where they keep the money.
Huh.
Yeah, all a big scheme to keep money.
Yeah, and that's okay. So let's go all doctrinal now, because our good friend Rutherford, he claimed, there's a passage in. Okay, so this is like nerdy Jehovah Witnesses that only I know, but there's a passage in the Bible. It says like 2,300 days to the temple should be restored to perfection, and he claims that was when they changed the bylaws of Watchtower companies so he could appoint the elders. And that's what still Jehovah Witnesses believe, that the prophecy of Ezekiel when the temple was brought to perfection was when Judge Rutherford, the Watchtower president, was allowed by the bylaws to appoint elders.
Wow.
Right.
But now it's not the Watchtower that appoint elders.
Makes sense.
There's a goalpost on that revelation.
So you're no longer Mormons, and you're still talking to your family?
Yeah. It's I realize there's nothing in Mormonism itself that pushes you to disown your family if they leave the church. And even a lot of Mormon leaders will talk to you like, they'll tell you not to do that. They'll tell you
It's not helpful.
still be loving. Kind of a catch more flies with honey type deal.
And it's taught a lot more today too, because
Yeah.
the older generations are having a much harder time with people leaving, like our grandparents' generation, because it doesn't come from the teaching so much as the fear that was invoked into them of what's going to happen to us if we leave, or why we're leaving, because it's Satan. So anyway, sorry, you were saying.
No, you're good. My mom even sent me a big long text a few years back saying, hey, because we don't really talk about it, Morgan and her family, they're more open. They talk about this crap, but my family, we just, whatever. We won't talk about it. My mom just sent me this big long text a couple years ago just saying, hey, I want you to know, I just want my kids to be good people, and I want them to be happy and good parents and stuff. I don't care if you're Mormon or not. That's not a big deal to me. I love you anyway. And so that was
really awesome.
pretty cool.
It was amazing. And I would say it's very atypical even for Mormons.
Yeah.
Now, Mormons, way less extreme reactions, obviously, than Jehovah's Witnesses. I have heard of Mormons that reach out to me where their parents did, shun them and treat them like took them out of the family will and not invite them to family functions and stuff like that. But it's so much less common. Now his mom is like the other end of like about as positive as an experience as you could get, which was so awesome. My family was, I would put them like much more loving and accepting than like a typical Mormon response, but it was still really hard, and it's gotten better over time. But I mean, I still thank my lucky stars that I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, because at least I could see them still.
I think it might really depend on how many times they've interacted with people who have left the church before.
That's true.
I know my mom did have a hard time. One of her best friends left the Mormon church, and I think that was hard on her. But by the time I left the church, she had known so many people to have left it that it's not a big deal. And so, like, Morgan's family, she was...
all they had ever known was, like, the rumors they would hear at church, which is people leave and they're evil and they're anti and they're angry and they're bitter. And so, like, they just had the worst kind of expectations and no coping techniques of, like, maybe we should see how this plays out instead of just assuming the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and so she left it, and that was really hard on them, because it's like the first immediate family member who's leaving. They haven't dealt with it before. They don't know how to deal with it. But then recently, her little brother admitted to them that he didn't believe in the church. And I mean, they've had their arguments and stuff over it, But I think for the most part, it's been easier on them because they know a little bit more what to expect.
Well, and they learned from me like what kind of treatment was not working, because I was like, you can't talk to me this way, like this, like, and or this is hurting my feelings when you say stuff like this. And so like they learned from our situation like how to better treat my younger brother, which was good. And I wasn't perfect in the way I handled it either, because I was pretty angry, right? And I want to tell them that they're wrong and everything. So I wasn't perfect either. It was hard on both sides, but yeah, definitely much less shunning that happens in the Mormon community than in the Jehovah's Witness community.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I
think
wonder
it's
why that is, you know? Like, why is it so much more strict when
I
there's...
think. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
no. Go ahead,
I-
Mako.
I was thinking it's more because if you're afraid to lose everybody, you're more likely to stay in because you have more to lose if you're going to lose everything if you decide not to believe this. Whereas if you still have your family and friends, there's so many people, I believe, who would just be like, okay, well, I don't believe anymore.
Yeah.
That's
But they
true.
can't.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and they always say that that it's discipline. So if everyone else is making an effort not talking to Jared, I will not be the one that destroyed the whole regiment.
Oh, that makes
So they
sense.
say,
I'm going to ruin everyone else's hard shunning work.
it's obviously blackmail, and blackmail is illegal. So it's a crime what they're doing. It's a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because they say that even if Jared don't believe in the church, maybe he will miss his family.
Yeah.
They say it straight out, and we have propaganda videos of someone calling the parents, and the parents hang up on them. Just look at what number it is and hang up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they say, I just wanted contact with my family, but they said no because even a little might give me the. So you have to be one. So I remember my uncle, he was disfellowshipped and lived neighbor to my grandparents, and Mama told me apart. It took me apart and said, it might feel like you're doing something nice if you say hello to him, but maybe then he will not come back, and you have blood guilt and you're a murderer, and you die in Armageddon. It's a big.
He's going to die in Armageddon, and it's going to be your fault.
Yeah.
The most loving thing you can do is treat him like shit.
No, but on the other hand, we were supposed to love bomb his children. So I remember every time, and this is so weird. I remember every time I met my uncle with my cousins, I didn't know what to do. I was a kid myself, But I said, hello, 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 because I was supposed to love bomb 3 out of 4.
Oh.
So therefore, I had to go like this: hello, Morgan. Hello, Jared. Hello, Michaela.
Oh my god!
That makes for some awkward situations.
Yeah.
Oh, way.
That's not. He killed himself later. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses do that, but from a legal standpoint, it's a crime because Jehovah's Witnesses have an elder book. You have the same like a special book for the bishop, I think. That normal members not supposed to read. But in this elder book, it says that you will be automatically disfellowshipped if you take Watchtower to court.
Oh.
Oh wow! It's like, why would they have to put that in the thing?
Yeah, and think
God,
about
church. Oh,
that
that's
work
weird.
with sexual harassment or anything. Imagine if Watchtower have thousands and thousands of employees, and they have a system in place that if you sue your employer for any reason, that you don't get the right safety equipment or sexual harassment. If you sue your employer, you lose your family, your job, and everything.
Your friends.
That is blackmail, and it's a crime.
Oh man!
Everything you have, because you. I'm sorry, Jared.
No, you're good. Go.
And because you're not allowed to make friends outside of that community.
Yeah.
When you leave, you literally lose everything.
That's so true, because if you're not allowed to make friends outside of it, you really have nowhere to go. There was a talk given in the Mormon church years ago by one of our leadership. Who was it?
It was
where you go?
M. Russell Ballard.
He said, if you leave this organization, this church, where will you go? And it was such a manipulative thing to say. And that's like, but that's exactly what the Jehovah's Witnesses are setting up. Where will you go? You'll have nothing. You'll have no one. You have no education. You have no job. Like, wow.
Yeah,
I think they're sort of able to, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of cross this barrier that Mormonism hasn't quite been able to penetrate with people. And it makes me think of 1984, where George Orwell talks about that last barrier that Big Brother has to penetrate is family connections.
Family loyalty.
Yeah, that last wedge, they got to drive a wedge in between, because in the book they have kids ratting on parents when they'll do something that might, criticize the party or the organization or whatever. And I don't think Mormonism can quite do that to its people. Because I was told, I remember a seminary teacher told me that you're supposed to love Jesus more than anyone. And I said, well, what about like my wife when I get married? And he said, no, you still got to love Jesus more than your wife. And I said, well, why? And he said, because he's done more for you. And I was like, so love is bought. But it kind of never sat well with me. And I think it's because Mormonism as an organization isn't set up in quite as clever of a way that will strip you of everything you have if you walk away from it. And it's not set up in quite a way that you're outwardly supposed to, or in action at least, you're not supposed to really love the organization more than you love your brother.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the Watchtower organization is probably, you guys seem pretty strict. I think the best example is, I know in Russia, they changed.
We really have a wedge between everything goes through a Jehovah filter.
Yeah.
I remember my parents used to tell me when I was a kid, we love you as long as you're a Jehovah Witness.
Ooh. That's heavy.
And that's exactly what you're saying, that wedge right in between families. And when you have that, it's like.
And my mother used to tell me, and I remember she was smiling, she was proud, she could, give me this, when a mother really smiled because she can tell something wonderful, really wonderful. And she was smiling, and she told me, and if mommy is not faithful to Jehovah, you should be shunning mommy.
Oh man.
That's before I started school, And you see, I can send you later some Watchtower propaganda for children, and just for small children.
Is it the two little kids that did these videos with what are their names?
Caleb and Sophia.
Yeah, we need to come on here and watch one of those with you, because I've seen them. Oh man,
I went through a phase where I was watching some Watchtower propaganda on YouTube. I went down that rabbit hole.
Shocking.
It's pretty bad. I saw one of the first ones was an animated one where a kid comes home with a toy wizard, and the mom's like, how would that make Jehovah feel?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think he'd be cool with it.
No.
Nope.
That's,
I mean, I was wrong, obviously. But
that it is a 2-minute video, and I show it to people, and they say, it's a satire. It's not really made by Watchtower people, because
that's what it seems like.
But we're going to say in that when he throw it away, and they make him think it's what do you want to do. So you always be told that it's your choice, but it's not really your choice.
Mm-hmm.
And typical Jehovah's Witness behavior from one end to another. So do you want to have this? And then they sit you down. The parents will drop everything, sit you down, and study the Bible until you admit you're wrong. But it's your choice. So when you're a kid, you'll learn, okay, should I throw away my toy, or should we have a 5-hour Bible study and get to beat? Because if you stick to your guns and say, it's nothing wrong with the toy, even if your parents study the Bible with you for 5 hours, sooner or later they will give up the Bible study and just give you a beating. So, but it's a passive aggressive way of teaching children not to think, okay, we will have a Bible study until if it take 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, But then what do you want to do? And then when he throws it away and he believes it's his choice, and I was very proud as a child that everything I did was my choice.
Right.
But anyway, when they throw it away, Mother said in this video, say, Jehovah loves you very much for obeying.
Ugh.
Oof.
And
I've had
that's
that
what
happen.
they always say, we love you for, my parents used to say, and that's what they train to do. We'll love you as long as you serve Jehovah. We'll love you as long as you're obeying. And I remember as a small child, I asked my parents, wouldn't you not love me if I was a Jehovah Witness? And my father said, well, do you think Jehovah loves Satan?
Ooh.
Oh.
Good Lord.
Oh my God.
So they really have this. So that is actually the parents brainwashing themselves, because then later when I don't no longer serve Jehovah, for them, it's hard for them, but it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So they changed the rules. Like I said, Jehovah Witnesses, we don't have to pay. You can actually be a Jehovah Witness your whole life without ever paying anything, and no one would notice.
Right.
Like I said, because the religion and the structure was created by a rich man. So his focus was not money. But since Armageddon didn't come in 1878 like he had planned, he had to start selling newspaper. But he was a businessman. So it wasn't so important for him to ask for donation, and he was religious and deluded religious. So you can actually, within the Jehovah Witness structure, you can be a witness from the cradle to the grave without ever paying anything, and no one will ever notice.
Yeah.
But you have
better
to
go out
report.
field service.
You have to report a field service. And in 2016, they made it worse. So they say you should be shunning family if they don't report hours.
Oh.
That's when my parents blocked me. The only contact I had with them at that point was they were following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And in 2016, or no, the year after that, no, 2016, they almost started talking to me, and that's when I only had the Instagram. The only contact was they were following me on Instagram. And then when I came out as an apostate, they blocked me on Instagram. So they don't want to see pictures of me, Eden. That's kind of
Oh, it's just so sad.
yeah.
I just like being a mother myself now, we have a 2-year-old, and I'm just like, I can't imagine ever him doing anything that I would just never want to talk to him ever again. It just boggles my mind, because like, I wonder, I like the way you say, Jonas, is like, they're good people, but the religion makes them toxic, right? And that's what high demand religion does in general. But it just blows my mind, like, as a mother, that's some deep indoctrination that can somehow overcome your mother intuition, your mother connection with a child, to not want to be there for them and support. It's just, I don't get it. Like, I wonder how many moms are really struggling with that in the Jehovah's Witness when they have a child leave. Like, how hard it is to not talk to them, or is it just easy for them because, it's crazy.
For my mom, with my older siblings, when they got disfellowshipped, it was really hard on her. And I can tell it's hard on her too, because her and I were really close, or were, until this happened.
Yeah.
But as a friend of mine, we were talking earlier today, it robs people of their natural affection. So that natural love you have is taken. It makes it easier for people to just cut you off.
It's just like, it's mind-blowing. It really is.
Yeah, I tried to explain it like a Jehovah filter. Everything goes through a Jehovah filter. So love your brother, but a watchtower decides who is your brother.
Yeah. And with Mormonism, I feel like there's just kind of this more like arrogance and passive aggressiveness, as opposed to the shunning, because you'll see families where it's like a member stops going and everyone else will be like, you really should repent and come back. Like, you really should stop doing those things that you're doing. Or they'll show up at a family function and be like, wow, those shorts are really short, or, just like little comments or, and things like that. But it's so different than like this whole like just cut people off.
Yeah, I think Mormons, they'll use passive aggression and just hope that it works. And I think Jehovah's
Yeah.
Witnesses, it sounds like they'll use passive aggression until it's clear that it won't work, and then they use active aggression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
One of the first things I did before I officially left was I went and I saw a friend of mine who had been disfellowshipped 6 months prior to me leaving.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. And like she even noticed too, it was like just going there and seeing her was so difficult because you're taught that you're not supposed to do that and that you're making God mad. And at this point, I was beginning not to believe in God. So I was like having that. And she's like, I know this is really hard for you and I know why, but I'm really glad you're here. And so it was good to be able to have that because we were really close and it was really hard not to be able to see her or talk to her.
I
And
bet.
it's tough that they can have that control over you, that you feel guilty about just being at their house. You feel terrible.
Wow, that makes sense. You know, I didn't even think about that aspect of it, of like being afraid of what God will do to you if you talk to that family member or friend or whatever that's ex. Because that's not something in Mormonism that's ever talked about. It's like, oh, God will be disappointed if you talk to that ex member. Like, they never talk about that kind of thing. They just tell you why the person left. Oh, they wanted to sin. They're taken by Satan, all these things. And so you're scared of ex-members, but you're not like scared that God's going to do something bad to you. So that's like a whole different level of intensity that honestly makes more sense why there is such diversion.
So how do
It's
they...
like you're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And if anybody sees you, then you're going to get in trouble because you're at so-and-so's house and you're not supposed to be there because they're disfellowship.
Who could find out? Yeah.
Yeah.
You
How
can
do they
actually be
justify
disfellowship for
apostasy?
talking to a disfellowship person.
You getting what?
You can be disfellowshipped for talking to a disfellowship person.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that is
Crazy.
that is serious. It's like the shunning is like very structured. Very structured shunning,
Yeah,
like very
totally.
specific directions on how to shun and the right way to do it.
What do they say about apostates? Like, why, when
Oh,
they try to
you're-
justify why apostates left? Because in
Mentally
Mormonism, it's always like, well, they
diseased,
wanted to kill or
crazy.
whatever.
Say it again.
You're mentally diseased. You're crazy.
Mentally diseased. I have heard.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah.
they refer to us as human apostates. Because you have Satan, the demons, and me.
Ew.
Yep.
You know, because we're twisted.
Oh, like a human Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
Because Satan was perfect and then he just turned into Gollum, you know? Mentally diseased and crazy. So that's us.
Oh my god.
I remember growing up, like if ever you disagreed with if I disagreed with my parents or one of my siblings said, oh, you're allowing Satan to make you rob the peace of our family because you disagree with our crazy decision of what we're going to do.
Bloof.
Oh.
That was hard. Like mentally how you can just be told you're Satan because you don't agree with something.
Wow.
See, I think that's kind of in line with early Mormonism, but like somewhere like during the Puritan years in like the 20s with prohibition and everything, I think the Mormon church really started trying to more merge into mainstream Christianity. Because if you look back at like Brigham Young days, it was hardcore. Like
Very hardcore.
bishops would be they would send like young men on missions who were trying to court the woman that they wanted to be like their fifth wife or whatever. And there was some really seedy and violent stuff going on there. And then at some point
1800s.
I don't know, someone
Cleaned up
wanted them
from
to
it.
be more mainstream Christian and I think they've been trying to do that even more
lately. They're trying to blend in, I think, with more mainstream Christianity to not seem so odd.
Different.
Yeah, I think they just want to be like, oh yeah, we're just like all the other Christian bros. Like,
well, they almost
we're
get
not
embarrassed.
weird.
They used to be like proud of their weird doctrine.
I know.
Like the thought that you could become a god and have your own planet one day. Like
Yeah.
they were really hard into it. They'd drive it home. They'd be proud of it. But now it's like, well, like there's even
I don't know if we believe that.
Yeah, Larry King asked that to Gordon B. Hinckley like two
The
prophets
prophet,
ago. And,
yeah.
and he's like, I hear you guys say that you can be a god one day and have your own planet. And he just says, I don't know that we teach that.
The prophet of our church, like
We certainly
denied-
teach that.
like he denied like religious theology on live television. It was bizarre. And so there's been this straying away from the weird doctrines and trying to blend in with more normal. But then it's funny because along the way they're preaching the whole time of like, oh, the church never changes. Like the church never changes. It's always the same. Like God's church is true. It's always been true. It's been perfect. And so it's just like it's very mixed signals.
Well, it was the word games like Jonas was talking about. When something changes, they'll say policy can change, doctrine can't. But there's nothing set on what is policy versus what is doctrine. So anytime something changes, well, it turns out that was policy.
Even though we thought it was doctrine.
And I've cornered people before, and I'm like, well, tell me one thing that's doctrine or something. And they're like, well, meh.
Yeah, we call it new light. We got new light.
Yes, that's a better way of putting it, honestly, because it's like, oh, God's revealed more truth. That's better than like God's changing his policy, which has been coming back to bite the Mormon church really bad, especially the 2015 issue where someone had leaked our secret elders book, like for the bishops, that like there was something in it that had basically talked about how gay parents, like their children aren't allowed to be baptized, which again, why would you want that anyway? But it was a big deal. And when that got leaked out, then the church.
Yeah, that was just evil. What they did in the church.
What did you say?
What was that? I didn't hear.
Said that was just evil. Can't you hear me?
Yeah. So, I just don't understand.
They said that a child of a gay person could not be baptized.
Yeah,
that's so wicked, you know.
Yeah, they try to put a positive spin on it that they're saying like, well, we don't want to tear their family apart, but in the policy it said that they can be baptized once they turn 18 if they disavow the homosexual lifestyle, and there's nobody else has to do that. So nobody else, in order to be a Mormon, has to say, I disavow the homosexual lifestyle. Only people who have like a gay dad or mom.
What if your mom drinks coffee? You don't have to say, I disavow coffee drinkers to get baptized. There's nothing like that. So it really hurt the community, both ex-Mormon and Mormon. Like, and a lot of people left the church over that when that was leaked. And then it was funny because of the backlash the church received was so bad that years later they ended up changing the policy. Yeah. Like, and it came across as this very like,
never mind,
whoops. And it's just so weird. It's like, how could God have not known that wasn't going to go over well? And so they basically then changed it to basically not be so extreme and everything, and to make exceptions and things like that. But anyway, moral of the story is church doesn't change, but the policies change, because I guess God doesn't always know how people are going to handle the policies.
So that one was especially pernicious because it's like your relationship is already going to be strained. So like if most of the time the situation is there's two people who are married and the man is gay, he's known he's gay for his whole life, but he was advised by his church leaders to marry a woman and that'll just cure him, you know? And they'll have kids together and stuff. And then eventually it becomes too much for him and he's gotta leave. And so they'll get a divorce and he'll marry a man or whatever. And so you've already got a strained relationship with your kid. You know, you already know, I am living a lifestyle that he is taught to be uncomfortable with. This sucks. I got to figure this out. You got to do a lot of talking to your kid. But not only that, but then because of me, my kid's not allowed to be baptized into the church he wants to be baptized into. Like that's so much more strain than is necessary.
Well, and without having to physically say, like, I know my dad is wrong and evil for what he's doing,
Yeah,
which is just so hurtful. Like, so yeah, it's been a bad situation, and it has not helped the church membership numbers at all.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing.
True. You know, how I'm curious though what the vibe is in the Jehovah's Witness, like with gays, like because there are Mormons that are like openly gay, but they don't act on it, so that it's fine, right? They can have a flamboyant personality, but they can't date men. And then as long as they don't date, they're fine and they're accepted in the community. And I'm curious if there's anything like that, or it's just you hide
I
it.
would say that Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of harassing everyone in a way. So I don't think Mormons, they're kind of more like they single out gay people.
Equal
Like in
opportunity.
this example where children that hasn't done anything wrong, even if being gay was wrong, if you were gay, your child hasn't done anything wrong.
Mhm.
So Mormons really single them out in a wicked way. Witnesses don't do that, but they kind of harass everyone. But the funny thing with Jehovah's Witnesses is like we have a headquarter. It's a printing company, so we have a headquarter with printing presses. They have, according to themselves, the biggest printing operation in the world.
Wow.
And it don't pay taxes because it's religion.
There you go.
And they used to sell them, and then with you guys in America, they changed the law, because they can't sell this amount of literature and not paying taxes. So then we were trained to walk from door to door and say, I give you this for free. Have you ever wondered, well, Makala, you know it in English. Can you do it? Money begging thing.
So, yeah, let me think back to it because we haven't done that in a while now. It's like you could have this if you wanted to give a free or like a voluntary donation. We'd be happy to accept for the work. Now it is you can go onto our website, and if you want it, you can give a donation there. So you're not allowed to take it personally. They have to go to the website to give a donation.
Right.
But the whole business model is based on begging now. But it's still
that's what you got to do when you set up your religion by a rich man instead of a poor man.
Yeah, but it used to be that we were selling the literature.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, one piece of literature cost, one book, $1, and it was extremely cheap because we were running our own printery. It was the biggest printing operation in the world. So, but the funny thing is, I think there were like 11,000 all in all working on this branch office and headquarters, and most of them are single. They live there. It's like living in a hotel with a printing office, and so you work long hours, and people clean your room. And they will go through your CDs and report to the elders if you're listening to the wrong kind of music. So then obviously they need to come up with list what is the right kind of music. So we have, when I was a kid, we had all this list of rap and heavy metal and stuff we were not allowed to and stuff. And that originated from the cleaning ladies on the headquarters that went into people's personal room and were supposed to spy on the people working there.
Wow.
So then you obviously you needed guidelines for the cleaning ladies.
Of course.
So then we have all this list of what music you can listen, and they also have the firewall to make sure you can't look at pornography and stuff like that. So I remember the video talk about the masturbation video. They come with rules. Then they have to explain that you're not allowed to look at thumbnails because the firewall cannot prohibit you to look at thumbnails.
Oh, that's so funny.
So they say, but Jehovah sees it.
Oh my gosh.
You shall not linger on a thumbnail.
Getting off on those thumbnails. Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
I got a $5, very generous Dennis McKee here, food donation for the goats. When are you doing the Russian program? Oh, my goats are thankful. when are you doing the Russian program? I have to find some Russians. The problem is with Russians that they don't talk to me so much. Okay, so Jehovah's Witnesses, I can explain to you. Jehovah's Witnesses are illegal Jehovah's Witnesses are not illegal in Russia. You're allowed to be a Jehovah's Witness, you're allowed to be it, but the organization is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
The LDS Church is not illegal that way in Russia as the Jehovah's Witnesses. So you're less persecuted than we are. But I promised I should do. I'm trying to find some pimo Jehovah's Witnesses that will be on my show, and I can ask them about how it works.
Yeah, I bet it's hard to find.
Because they have illegal meetings, and jw.org is blocked. So, but I'm still working with finding some Russians that want to do it, because, yeah, normally when people are pimo, they are living in a way. It's like being a spy.
Right.
You're living deep undercover. Your family, you have to pretend. You get extremely paranoid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In Russia, normally they live more cramped than we do. So if someone is emo, it's because of the family. So it's difficult for them to make an interview, and they are really afraid someone will recognize their voice. When I made my first apostate video, the only thing I made apostasy was that I named one of my goats Anthony Morris. And my heart, and I'm a big brave man, but my heart was pounding when I posted it, and it was nothing doctrinal or anything. It just named the goat Anthony Morris, and I thought, the big lamp would go up at the headquarters. We got an apostate.
Wow.
Oh my god.
And in my mind, they would open a window and let out a raven to send a message to Norway.
Oh my gosh.
You are extremely paranoid when you're a Jehovah's Witness and don't believe.
That
I
makes
can
sense.
understand, Morgan, you were depressed. It's really, yeah. So, long story short, I'm still looking for some Russian PIMOs. That, if there's some Russian PIMOs listening to this, please call me. About that. Now, should we tell them about the food boxes, Makala?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the Jehovah's Witness business model is giving away enormous amount of literature while begging, and they made money. They made ton of money because it accumulates, So
Right.
they made fortunes of nickels and pennies.
Right.
They will tell you, don't take an education. So here, education is free. I could go to university. I'm a smart person, but my father's biggest fear was that some of his kids would go to university for free. And instead, we were out selling Watchtower, and maybe Watchtower would make a 50-cent profit a day from me not going to university. But it's 50 cents.
Right. Oh, damn.
So it's like, it's a blood-sucking cult, but it's so stupid. It would be much better if they did like the Mormons. Okay, university is free, and my father have 5 intelligent children. Send all of them to university. Make sure they make a lot of Jehovah babies, and everyone gives us 10%.
Yes, they did it the right way.
No. You go out, spend your whole week pushing Watchtower literature, and we will make a $3 profit in the end of the week.
Right. Oh man.
Mormons are so much smarter. But now what they've done, and I've been thinking why they didn't do this before. They start collecting, because now it's obviously Armageddon, second coming of Christ, the Corona stuff.
Oh yeah, that's definitely Jesus.
So it fits perfectly into the Jehovah's Witness narrative, and they stay in their homes and wait for Armageddon. And so the organization lovingly provides them with boxes of food. And they imply that this is from Watchtower.
Okay.
It's not.
It's not, it's surplus food they get from things, So they use the fact that they are charity, and they couldn't collect surplus food from farming, stuff like that. And then they put it in bags, and they have this very secretive, because, this is the end of the demons, blah, 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 blah. So the brother is going to get boxes, He's not allowed to talk to anyone, and then they drive it to congregation and spread it out, and they give to everyone. Even so, if there's a rich congregation and everyone is making good money and don't need those care packages, you get the care package anyway, with an extremely passive aggressive thing like, this is from Jehovah saving your life, you're saving money on your monthly grocery bill, and what you should. So they're basically taking food from other charities, surplus food that are meant for charities. They take it and sell it to their members.
This is like some really weird reverse Robin Hood shit going on. Take from the poor and give to the other poor.
They build an empire on pushing literature, and you know what MLMs do? They basically sell to their own members.
Yeah, right.
Mormons love MLM, and they all have a garage full of shampoo or something.
No, they love MLMs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah. That's so funny.
They actually got so into MLMs that the Mormon Church had to create a policy. People they'd like start these scam companies, and Mormons are so trusting of other Mormons that people would then be coming to church, and they would gift stock in their company to high-ranking members of the church, like the prophet or whatever. And when they would try to sell it to normal members, they'd say, they'd be like, well, I want to get you in on the ground floor of my company, not to drop any names or anything, but the prophet is a shareholder in my company, and if he's a shareholder, it's not really like the prophet was being malicious there. He didn't really know. He was just, people were giving him stuff, and so now the church has a policy against that. You can't gift stock to general authorities in the church.
Oh man, I had never heard of that. That's
they're huge into MLMs here.
Well, I think the problem is you get all these Mormon women in Utah who have been taught their whole lives that all they can do is be mothers, that they can't really do anything else, and like they have this desire for something else, some way to contribute, some way to have passion, and so they're so quick to fall for those schemes of like, here's a way that you can make money and doing something that you like or promoting a product that you like. And they're so quick to buy into that because I think a lot of them are so bored, It
would make sense.
Yeah, they want something else in life.
Yeah. I think Mormons are the world champions in MLMs, both creating. Yeah, Utah is the world capital of MLMs, I heard.
And porn.
And porn?
And porn. Utah has like crazy higher numbers of people that watch porn than most other places, most other states. And it's just so funny because it's so Mormon there, but there's so much shame around porn that it's like people get fixated on it and then they watch it even more.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact statistics are, but
I've heard that anyway.
I know there's some odd statistics in relation to Utah and porn use.
Utah, the place of MLMs and porn.
Yeah. Quite the combo.
That sounds like a cool place, right?
Right.
So we're going to have to go here in just a little bit to get our son, but I had to comment on what you called this video. I noticed you called it Meet the Mormons, and I just have to tell people how funny that is, and I don't know if you know why it's so funny. Do you know why that's so funny?
Yeah, I think there's 2 documentaries already called Meet the Mormons.
Yeah. So was it like 2010 or something? Like, the church was trying to push to normalize Mormons and normalize them as like regular Christians. And so one of the documentaries or the movie or whatever was called Meet the Mormons. And it was like they were trying to push, like, look at them. They're just normal people, normal families, and they're happy and they love God and all this. And it is, whatever, but it's just so funny when you named the video that I just had to make sure everyone knew that was appropriate use of the title.
Yeah. Now we have to do this again. Sorry, I have this kid to take care of. So otherwise, because
that was our fault.
Huh?
I said, yeah, that was our fault.
Yeah. Okay, I have to do my Mormon jokes here.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Show us your Mormon jokes.
So let's see her. Okay, so
come back sometime.
What would you call a giant lizard in knocking down buildings in Utah?
Goshzilla.
Ah!
Is that it? Oh my god! Oh my god! So,
Like
oh,
that.
that's funny. Have you heard that before? Or did you just guess?
No, I figured that's where he was going.
They're so
for.
worried about taking God's name in vain. They won't say "Oh my God" or like.
I have a lot of friends who will swear, but the last word they'll say is God. So I know a lot of people who say "Gosh damn it."
Yeah, they won't. So that's hilarious. That instead of calling him Godzilla, Goshzilla. Oh man, that's good.
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses. We're not allowed to say. I say we still.
Try to get out of your head.
No, when I'm talking to you, it's kind of it makes sense in the situation.
Right.
We're not allowed to say heck and gosh and stuff like that. That's
Really?
still
Say
they're wrong.
because they're just as bad as the real thing.
There's
So-
sugar. There's
Oh,
no
that's
exclamatories at all.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the witnesses can't say gosh, heck,
Mormons
and-
say that, but most of them will say heck and.
Well, one of my
Gosh.
leaders called them sugar-coated swear words because we kept saying freaking and stuff like that. And he'd be like, you can't say that because that's just as bad as the F word. Freaking is just as bad as the F word. I'm like, well, you're saying one of those words and you're not saying the other one, so I believe that.
Okay, so I have some more jokes here, and probably you heard it, but you can tell me if it's true. Why do you take 2 Mormons fishing?
Because if you take one, he'll drink all your beer.
Yeah, is it true?
Because the other one holds him accountable.
Wait, what?
Because Mormons, he's saying like Jack Mormons, like if 2 Mormons, you're not going to drink in front of another Mormon, but if you don't have another Mormon around to judge you, you can drink as much as you want.
Oh my. What? This one was lost on me because my family was so strict with the rules, but that's pretty funny. How do you know all these jokes?
I know that one from work. I've heard that.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. I have 2 more here. Okay, I think I said it last week. Last week I was sick. It was terrible. They just went worse and worse and worse. So I don't remember what I said. But okay, so why do missionaries sit with crossed legs?
I don't know.
They only get 1 day a week.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's super funny because when you're on a mission, you have your day off, which is called your P day, standing for preparation day.
Yeah.
And so that's funny. That's pretty funny.
And why are Mormon missionaries so bad at fishing?
I don't know.
They are trained in the empty sea.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that one, they're trained in the MTC, Missionary Training Center, which that's good. That's a good one. Nice. I like your jokes, Jonas.
Yeah, I have Mormon pickup lines too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So long live Google. Okay, you have to keep Jared closer because this is powerful stuff. So have to keep. Okay, even with the Liahuna, I get lost in your eyes.
So for those who don't know what it is, Nephi had a Liahona, which was like God's magic compass.
There's a compass that works contingent upon your righteousness.
Yeah, like you better not do anything bad or it's not going to work anymore.
It's a Mormon GPS, basically.
That's a pretty good one. That's a good one.
Okay. Are you Laban's sword because you're exceedingly fine?
That's funny.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that one's pretty self-explanatory, right? That's a good one.
No, and my favorite is, what are a celestial girl like you doing at a celestial place like this?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And for those who don't know what that is, there's different kingdoms of heaven. And so it's like the highest is celestial and the lowest is telestial.
Super heaven versus sinner heaven.
Yeah, basically. Which is much more forgiving doctrine than Jehovah's Witness. But anyway, that's pretty funny. What's a girl like you doing down here?
Yeah, but I'm actually going to the celestial technically because I asked the Mormons to baptize me when I'm dead.
Yeah. You can still.
You'll be good.
We're probably screwed.
We're screwed because we had the truth and then we turned away from it. You're
Yeah.
actually way better off in Mormon theology to never hear of Mormonism ever. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, so I told it's fun with the missionaries because they speak good Norwegian, but when you speak, okay, so for them it's like we train for. It's very serious to be a missionary. You know, it's like Holy Father and me and Satan, and I'm the tip of the spear. In the spiritual war. So they take it very seriously, and they don't know the language perfectly. So then they don't understand humor. If you joke with them, they just answer like a computer.
I had one pickup line for you.
Oh, he's got one for you.
I made this one up. I used it on Morgan one time when we were first married. I said, if I were a polygamist, I'd marry you twice.
That is a good one.
Good one. I forgot about that. And he did. We got married twice. No, I'm just kidding.
She's both of my wives.
Yeah, that's good. Now, anyway, I spoke to the missionaries and I asked them just straight out, how do I go to the celestial? And they just blurred out, because you do that when you're speaking a foreign language. You turn into bad salesman. So he just said, well, you could become a Mormon, or we could baptize you when you're dead. That's not what you're supposed to say when you're a salesman. You can get off really easy without paying anything.
Yeah.
I told them, okay, I'll do that. And 2 big Mormon smiles. And I said, okay, you can baptize me when you're dead. And then they didn't understand the joke. So they were sitting there eating pizza, and they tried to explain to me that it's much better to become a Mormon, because when I go to the celestial, I save a lot of time. I don't have to wait for my physical body. So they were selling Mormonism like a great time saver.
It's like a VIP package.
Oh my gosh.
Timeshare.
I think that's funny. It's a time saver. You don't have to wait. You have spirit prison or something like that.
Yep. You'll be in spirit prison. Yeah. See, we always were taught to tell people when they would say that, like, because they would say that, they'd say, why would I get baptized now if you'll just do it when I'm dead? And we were taught to tell people that it'll actually be more difficult you'll be more difficult to convince in the spirit prison than you would be here. And I was like, how does that make any sense? Because if you're sitting there, you're in your spirit prison cell or whatever it is, and the only people that are coming around to visit you are Mormon missionaries, it's going to kind of clue you in. Okay, I guess the Mormons were right about this whole life thing. I'm going to accept it. I feel like that'd be a very easy choice to make.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I heard Mormons to say, the terrestrial, it's the second step, It's a great place. It's basically what Jehovah's Witnesses think is paradise. You go to paradise and you get a pet panda or a pet tiger, and everything is wonderful, And Mormons believe that Jehovah's Witnesses are going to the terrestrial kingdom,
Yeah.
So imagine if Jehovah's Witnesses, if Mormon Armageddon comes, and all the Jehovah's Witnesses are resurrected in the terrestrial kingdom. They will draw the conclusion that we're in paradise.
Yeah. I just think they were right.
Yeah. So then if someone comes along and say, I would like to talk to you about the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints, they will stone him to death for a I don't understand how that works.
Oh my God.
We are in paradise, and there's a live apostate here talking about Mormonism.
How the hell did you get in?
Survived Armageddon, we came to paradise, and now they're back.
Mistake made.
He would stone him to death.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Well, we're going to have to go, but thank you so much for having us. If anyone wants to check out our channel, it's My Spiritual Life. And Jonas, we'd love to come back. We love talking with you. It was so great to meet you. Also, I don't want to say your name wrong.
Makala. I've said it a couple times. Is that how you pronounce it? Makala?
Michaela.
Oh, Michaela.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Canada, only switch the consonants.
Got it. Okay, it was so great talking with both of you. Thank you guys so much. This was so fun, and I loved your pickup lines.
Yeah, I should go to a ward and try them.
Yeah, give it a shot. They'll
see how it goes.
Yeah. Mormon hunting. That would be fun.
Give them your address.
That's what they call the Shitza factor.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys around. fun.
Now we can do this again. You have a standing invitation. So
Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm excited to have you over sometime on our channel as well. It'll be so fun.
yeah, we can do that. Okay, so
Great.
bad association.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yes. That was fun.
Yeah.
Mormon's fun. Did you learn anything about Mormonism?
A lot, actually. I did not know about the whole back in the day when they were coming over, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a interesting system. So they believe what is it? So we used to be physical babies of God.
Mhm.
And then we went through a whale of forgetfulness to Earth to prove that we are. No, first we were in war, and I think 2/3 were faithful, and those 2 faithful are born as Mormons, which statistically doesn't make any sense because most people are not Mormons, I think. Anyway, we went through the whale of forgetfulness. That's why you can't remember being a physical spirit baby of
God.
Heavenly Father. So now you're here to prove that you're loyal and make the right decision. And even if they don't admit it or not, if you're good enough, you go to the celestial, and if you're good enough in the celestial, sooner or later you get your own planet and your own husband. He will be a god, and you will have your own spirit children, and they will pray to you, something like that. It's fun. It would make a great board game.
It would be really good. Great board game. I already had a husband with a god complex, so I think I'm good there.
Yeah, but I do have many gods too. So now I like Mormons, but they do the same as we as Jehovah's Witnesses used to do. With the definition. So like I say, we back in the day they say we do not do polygamy, but they do have plural marriage.
The word salad.
Yeah, and we don't. They don't. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's late now. I have to go to bed, but this was fun.
It was. I enjoyed being on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was Sporto. You have to say greetings to your brother if that's the only family member you contact with him.
Hey, Jacob.
Is he here?
He might be on. I'm not sure. He was having to work, so he might be at work right now.
Yeah. Well, you can bring him on another time because you have a good camera and stuff like that. So that's
he's actually
requirement.
We don't live in the same state anymore. When I left, I went down to Florida, stayed with my grandma for a little bit, and then I moved to New York. So he's back in Michigan.
Okay. So you're in New York and he's in Michigan.
I am. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to go to bed now because I have to put up fence tomorrow. I put up 50 meters today. I tried 90 meters tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Because the neighbors are angry. My goats are running everywhere. So.
Well, you have fun with that. I have to finish making stuffed mushrooms. So.
Okay. So I will remove.
Thank you very much.
Okay, your bad association. Thank you. Yes. So thank you for watching, and let me know if there's something I should do next time. So what do you think about the Mormons? Tell me. Should I invite them more times? Actually, I liked this Jared guy because he you should hear his story. He's a really funny guy. Be well and prosper. Is Michaela a content creator on YouTube? Not yet, I think. We can ask her again. Be well and prosper. Yes, you should. Thanks, Jonas. I will look for Dennis McKee. Thanks, Jonas. I will look for a Russian pimo. Yeah, because it would be fun. We grew up with listening to all these stories about when there's persecution and it's secret and. But we basically know one way or another they get jw.org to Russia. It's not brain surgery. You can take a DVD in the mail or something. It's not that difficult. and they probably have meetings in private homes, and Watchtower is very secretive about this, which is weird. If you know the whole Jehovah, Satan, demon, all that was real, you know, the demons would just know what you're doing and tell Putin. But it would be fun just to lay it down on YouTube what they're doing. But I'm pretty sure they're just arranging meetings like normal. They just do it in private homes, because the people that has been arrested have been brothers, not the sisters, not their wives. And that's because it's legal to be a Jehovah Witness in Russia. Jehovah Witnesses, a Watchtower, they go out and say, oh, we're persecuted. And I remember, you know, I'm interested in human rights, and they get like articles written that it's like the brother Dennis Christensen, that he's incarcerated only for being Jehovah Witness. No, then his wife would have been in prison too. He's incarcerated for being part of the organization, arranging the meetings, you know, doing the administrative thing from a criminal organization that actually is a criminal organization. A lot of the stuff Watchtower do is actual crimes, like the blood police. They go into hospitals, put a lot of pressure on a vulnerable person. That is a crime in Russia. So when you do that, well, I'm not a Russian lawyer, just disclaimer, but according to what I heard and stuff like that. I speak Russian, but not enough to be able to read all this legal mumbo jumbo. But work with that thesis. If it's illegal to do the blood policing things, and some elders do that anyway, they go into hospital, of course you should go to prison, because you're a criminal. Same as shunning. Shunning, the way Watchtower do it, is blackmail. I pressed for charges for my elders. It's actually, you can go to jail for 6 years for that. It's a crime. So, but it would be fun to get some Russian pimo. So I'm tired. Let's find some Russian pimo. And next week, what should we talk about? Let me know in the comment section. And if you know anyone I should invite, please tell me. So now I'm going to bed, and I'm gonna put up fence tomorrow. My neighbor came here and yelled at me because my goats were on his property. So I guess he made a good point. So I'm leaving studio now. So thank you very much, and see you in paradise.